ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। So welcome everybody. Today we'll be discussing the third part of the Aarti songs. That is we were doing the meaning of the first song which is sung in the Belur Math as well as other branches of the Ramakrishna order. That is Khandana Bhavabandhana Jagavandana Vanditumai. So we have already discussed the first two verses. I will just read out the verses and the translations. The first verse, as you know, Khandana Bhavabandhana Jagavandana Vanditumai Niranjana Nara Rupadhara Nirguna Gunamai. So, breaker of the bond of this Bhava Bandhana, breaker of the bond of this Sansara, Jagavandana, one who is adored by the whole world, Vandi Tumai, we bow down to you. Niranjana means you are without any stain. Nara Rupadhara, you have assumed a body for the good of the world. And Nirguna Gunamaya, you are with gunas as well as beyond the gunas. Then the second verse we have also discussed. Muchana Agadushana Jagabhushana Chidkanakay Jnananjana Vimalanayana Vikshane Mahajay. So Agadushana means those which are very bad sins, you free us, Mochana. Then Jagabhushana means you are the ornament of this world. Chidghanakai means you are, as it were, consciousness solidified. Jnananjana Vimalanayana Vikshane Mohajay. When you look at us with your pure eyes, which are full of the supreme knowledge, our delusion disappears. So these two we have discussed. So today we will discuss the third one, that is Bhaswara Bhavasagara Chira Unmada Prema Pathar Bhaktarjana Yugala Charana Tarana Bhavapar. So the tune you all know. Bhaswara Bhavasagara Chira Unmada Prema Pathar Bhaktarjana Yugala Charana Bhaktarjana Yugala Charana Tarana Bhavapar. So this we will discuss today. The first portrait of this is Bhaswara Bhavasagara. So Bhaswara, you all know, it's another name for the sun. Sun means one who is giving light, one who has a light of its own, which does not need to borrow any light from anybody. So Bhaswara Bhavasagara, this Bhaswara word is an adjective of bhav. Bhav actually means any kind of emotion, but here bhava means spiritual emotion. So, and Bhaswara, you can say literal translation may be resplendent, that is emitting light, but here Bhaswara means spiritual because in that way it has been said. So you are the Sagara means you are the ocean. Of what? Of spiritual emotion. So Sri Ramakrishna is said to be the ocean of spiritual emotions. So we will just discuss this, then we will go to the next one. So as we have seen that bhava means any emotion that arises in our mind. Bhava can be good as well as bad. So that is on the ordinary level. And these great souls, their emotions are on the transcendental level, on the spiritual level, much above ordinary people what we feel. Like when we feel when we feel happy, suppose we eat something nice, meet some people, we are so happy, we feel that is good emotion. But that stays only for a few moments. But these people have spiritual emotion. That means that is connected with God. So that is much, much deeper. So here Sri Ramakrishna has been called the ocean of spiritual emotions. He is not one or two emotions. So Swami Vivekananda has said a very significant thing about this. In the talks with Swami Vivekananda with Sharat Chandra Chakravarti, that book, Swami Vivekananda has said one unbelievable thing. You know, we know that Brahman is infinite. There is nothing to compare with it. No limit can be put to Brahman. So Swami Vivekananda says that even if it was possible to put a limit on Brahman, the supreme reality, suppose, but there was absolutely no limit to Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual emotions. This kind of statement is unthinkable. But coming from Swami Vivekananda, so we have to take it seriously. So this was the kind of the variety of spiritual moods which Sri Ramakrishna experienced. And this is unique in the history of even India's spiritual history, let alone others. So I will quote from a letter which Mahapurush Maharaj wrote to Roman Roland. He has written a book on Sri Ramakrishna's life. So this is another astounding statement by Mahapurush Maharaj. The letter is long. I will just quote one portion. He says, as time passes and I become more and more acquainted with the domain of spirituality, I feel the infinite extent and depth of Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual moods. Because of this, I am more and more convinced that to compare him with God, as God is popularly understood, is to minimize and lower his greatness. So these we can never imagine. But you have to remember that these were not just the exuberant thoughts of somebody like us. They were very, very great souls, Swamiji and Mahapurush Maharaj. So when they say this, we just have to listen with reverence. That's all. We cannot understand this. And bhava in the domain of spirituality, we will discuss all that later. Bhava means some kind of attitude which one develops towards God. That is in the field of religion only. Because as we have discussed last time, our aim of life is to love God. Now, we cannot love anybody till we develop a relation with him. So our scriptures, especially the Vaishnava scriptures, they speak of 5 attitudes. 5 major attitudes which one can build with God. Those attitudes we all know because we are all familiar with the human attitudes. Like one is regarding God as one's child. One is regarding gods as one wife or husband. One is regarding gods as one friend. So these are some of the attitudes. So this is also one meaning here. This Bhaswara Bhavasagara, infinite spiritual moods Sri Ramakrishna had towards God also. Because once he practiced the attitude of Hanumana looks upon God as his master. So about this, I will quote Swami Sardanandaji, his great work, Sri Ramakrishna the Great Master, you all know. So he says, I quote him, different degrees are visible in the experience of non-dualistic as well as the dualistic moods. So dualistic moods, like I told you, regarding God's one friend or child or anything. However, one should not think that incarnations are confined to any one of these spiritual moods. They can fully demonstrate at will any dualistic mood at any time in their life. Again, they can assume a non-dualistic attitude to proceed in the experience of oneness with God to an extent that is beyond the capacity of any other individual, even those who are God-realized souls, ordinary God-realized souls. This is possible only for the incarnations of God. The records of their extraordinary experiences in the spiritual realm evolved into the Vedas and other scriptures. Their experiences later evolved as the scriptures. So what we read actually are based on the experiences, their experiences. It is therefore not surprising that the incarnation's spiritual experiences will, in many instances, surpass the records of the Vedas and other scriptures. Because those experiences have been recorded as the Vedas and other scriptures. So suppose they have 100 experiences. Not all of them has been recorded, no. Maybe some 20, 25 are recorded. So what about the others? They are unrecorded. So actually their experiences transcend the Vedas and Vedanta also. That is the greatness. That is why now Sardananji says, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the condition of this place, Sri Ramakrishna never said I, this place. So he used to say the condition of this place has gone far beyond what is recorded in the Vedas and Vedanta. That is the meaning of this statement. Because how many things have been recorded? Even if you take Sardananji's book, how many things he has recorded? Sri Ramakrishna used to experience new moods maybe every second of the day. Nobody knows how many there were. Thousands. So then Sardananji continues, when one reflects on the life and teachings of the Master, one understands that he was the embodiment of all spiritual moods. Nothing was left out. Such a great king in the realm of spirituality has never been seen before. Dwelling in the state of Bhavamukha, the Master fully demonstrated in his life the immense range of spiritual states, from the non-dual Nirvikalpa Samadhi to the spiritual moods of Savikalpa. Then he guided different types of devotees along different paths according to their goals and brought them to the light of knowledge from the darkness of ignorance, to unprecedented hope from despair, and to incomparable peace amidst worldly tribulations. So, this is important. Then he guided different types of devotees along different paths. That is very necessary, you see, because if one has not traversed the path, then one cannot guide. Suppose if I want to go to Toronto and I ask someone, so I ask 5 people, 4 of them say, oh, we can guide you along the map, but we have not gone. But one person will say, I have gone myself. So naturally, I will go to him for advice. No, he has gone himself. So similarly here, if Sri Ramakrishna had not himself traversed all these paths, he would not have been able to guide all kinds of aspirants who came to him. Whoever has studied his life in detail or even in a short way, there has not been even one instance that somebody came to him and he did not receive guidance. So from this we can imagine that he was able to guide everybody who came to him. Thousands and thousands came to him. See, even the record which we have actually, like Swami Vivekananda, Ramchandra Datta. Ramchandra Datta was one of the first to come to the master. But that was also just a few years before Sri Ramakrishna passed away. Before that, so many people had come. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that in my room, so many aspirants used to come. All day there would be talk of different types of spiritual experiences, Vedas, Vedantas, etc., etc. So nobody knows. Nobody, how many thousands of people came to him. And what we have on record, not even a single person could say that I came to him, but I could not receive any credit. So why? This happened only because he was the embodiment of all kinds of spiritual moods. So this thing has never been seen even amongst other incarnations. So then we come to, this is the first line, Bhaswara Bhava Sagara Chira Unmada Prema Patha. Then now we come to the second quatrain of this verse, Chira Unmada Prema Patha. So here also we will break up that Chira Unmada. First we will discuss this. Prema Patha is separate. Chira means constantly. In Hindi as well as Bengali, I think even in Sanskrit, constantly. And Unmada. Unmad we all know. Generally we say mad person is Unmad. But here, yes, Sri Ramakrishna was also mad. But he was mad with what? He was mad with spiritual emotions. He was mad with God. So Unmad here means he was always intoxicated. He was always intoxicated. Intoxicated with what? With the highest thing which a person can be immersed in. That is God himself. So he was always intoxicated with divine love. Divine love. Sometimes he could not walk straight. He would start reeling. Reeling like a drunkard. So Sardananji says, under the influence of that divine inebriation, sometimes he staggered so much that he could move only when holding on to somebody. We cannot imagine that. It is impossible. That kind of being immersed in God, people thought he was dead drunk. I will also mention one very amusing incident. So this incident has been mentioned by Ramlal Chattopadhyay. You know, he was a relative of Thakur. So once what happened that Sri Ramakrishna had gone on a steamer with Keshav Chandra Sen. All those who have read Gospel, you know, all those things have been recorded. That boat ride with Keshav and all. So when they got down from the steamer, dry land, Sri Ramakrishna was staggering. He could not walk straight. So he was put in a carriage. So just he was staggering just like a drunkard. So when he was being put in a carriage, some Europeans were there. They started laughing. So this Ramlal Chattopadhyay asked Keshav. Keshav was there, Keshav Chandra Sen, that why are these people laughing? So Keshav said that they think that the master has drunk wine. And he has drunk so much that poor fellow cannot even stand. So Ramlal Chattopadhyay told those persons he has not drunk any ordinary wine. He is in a divine mood. So those people, when they heard that, they were amazed that a person can be so much intoxicated with God, that is unbelievable. So ordinary people could not understand. Only great souls could understand. Great souls like Holy Mother. So regarding this also there is a incident with Holy Mother. One day at Dakshineshwar, the master asked Holy Mother to prepare some betel rose, you know, that what we call pan in Bengali and Hindi. So, so he asked Holy Mother to prepare some betel rose and clean his room, and he went down to bow down to the Kali temple to Mother at Dakshineshwar. So Mother finished her work. She had almost finished when the master returned from the temple. So when the two states were completely different. When he went, he was normal. But when he came, he was reeling. Reeling like a drunkard, completely intoxicated. Even his eyes became red. Just imagine. So his steps were unsteady. Speech also indistinct. He could not speak. Indistinct and incoherent. So he staggered to the place where Holy Mother was doing all her duties. So Mother could not know that master had come from behind. So the master asked her, "Hello, see my condition. Have I drunk wine?" So Holy Mother was Holy Mother. So naturally, she immediately turned around, and although she was amazed to see the master in that state, she immediately said, "No, no. Why should you drink wine?" Then the master said, "Then why am I staggering like this?" So Mother said, "No, no, you haven't drunk wine. You have drunk the divine nectar of Mother Kali." So Master joyfully responded, "Yes, you are right." So this was the Chira Unmada, always intoxicated, always mad. And ordinary people considered him to be mad. So Sardananji writes, ordinary people considered him to be mad because they saw he had no interest at all in worldly enjoyments, that he was in an intoxicated mood beyond their comprehension, and that he spent his days calling out on God, sometimes with various names like Hari, Kali, Ram, etc. So he was absolutely mad with God. That is the thing. So Swami Vivekananda says, what was this kind of thing? In his Bhakti Yoga, he describes it. He says, extreme love to God is bhakti. And this love is the real immortality, getting which a man becomes perfectly satisfied, knowing which a man becomes mad. This is the divine madness. So again, Swami Vivekananda quotes Sri Ramakrishna in his lecture on My Master. He says, my master used to say, my master means Sri Ramakrishna. My master used to say, people used to call him mad, no? So he said, this world is a huge lunatic asylum. I am not, this is not that only I am mad. Nearly everybody is mad. This world is a huge lunatic asylum where all human beings are mad. But some are mad after money, some after sense pleasures, some after name and fame, and a few, very few, after God. So I prefer to be mad after God. So this was his Chira Unmad, that is constant 24 hours of the day, constantly intoxicated with God. Slightest thing would remind him of God. Slightest thing. Means when some person, we may say the same thing, but according to our sanskaras, that thing will remind us of something. Like suppose it is said in, example is given, suppose a thief is going at night, there is a stump of a tree. So what will the thief think? He is a policeman. Because his mind is always attuned to that, So I remember an incident. I was in Rimse. Rimse means Mysore. There is a huge area. We have 20 acres of land. There's a big school there. So it is so calm and quiet that if you just walk alone, it's you'll find so much peace and just you feel like meditation. And so one of my relatives had come from Calcutta to visit me. This is 25 years ago. So we were walking. So it was very quiet. So he's telling me, so quiet. Even if someone is murdered here, even if someone is murdered here, one will not do anything. So I thought, my goodness. See, these silence and solitude remind us of meditation and God, and it is reminding him of murder. So it all depends on one's impressions. So everything used to remind the master of God indirectly, directly. Like Siddhi, in that in the Tantra sadhana they take Siddhi little. But Siddhi means one which intoxicates. It will make you a little gay. So, but Sri Ramakrishna, as soon as he used to utter the word Siddhi or Karana means the same thing, wine. He would become completely intoxicated with God, spiritual emotion. Normally, wine would remind him of spiritual God. So this was absolutely unique, and many incidents are there. If I start quoting, it will take at least 1 hour. So many incidents are there to demonstrate. So we will go to the next one. So Bhaswara Bhava Sagara Chira Unmada, and the last part of this quartet is Prema Pathar. Prema Pathar means the ocean of love. So not only was he an ocean of spiritual emotions, but he was also an ocean of love. But this was not ordinary love, that you will see how. And regarding this, many disciples have given evidence, many disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Like Premanandaji Baburam Maharaj used to say that when we used to go to Sri Ramakrishna, could we realize who he is? Could we realize that he's an incarnation of God or anything? No, not at all. We just went drawn by his love. That kind of love we have never experienced. We have never got from anybody. So Sardananji says regarding this, the master's method of teaching was not limited to verbal instruction only. He would keep his disciples near him, and through his love completely make that person his very own. So that is in our life also we see. If some person just tells us in an offhand way, oh, please do this, please do that. But if there is a genuine love and concern, then we are more apt to listen to that person because we know that he has got our welfare in his heart. So that was how Sri Ramakrishna made his disciples his own, and also, of course, Holy Mother was the very incarnation of love. So Holy Mother says a very important thing about this aspect of Sri Ramakrishna. She says, don't you know that the Master fostered a feeling of motherhood towards the whole universe? And he has left me to manifest that feeling. So that feeling of motherhood which we see in the Holy Mother was also there in Sri Ramakrishna because both are non-different. But this love was not ordinary love. What we are actually, we do not know what love is. The worldly love which we call love is not love. So once what happened that Sri Ramakrishna, sometimes he would, when Swami Vivekananda would not come for many days, he would start calling, telling everybody, Arey, Narayana is not coming, you tell, I cannot breathe, even sleep properly without seeing him, you please tell him to come. So Swamiji thought, why is he so attached to me? What kind of thing is this? So Naren said he came to Sri Ramakrishna. And Swami Vivekananda could say anything to Sri Ramakrishna. Once he even said, all your visions are hallucinations. So then he came and scolded Sri Ramakrishna. You are always thinking of me, then what will happen to you? In the end, you will become like Jada Bharata. Jada Bharata means that Bharata, King Bharata, always he used to think of God. But this deer cub was, his mother gave birth to a deer and he got attached to the deer. So now he forgot all thoughts of God and began to think only of the deer. So next birth he was born as a deer. That is the story in the Bhagavata. So Swami Vivekananda told Sri Ramakrishna, your situation is also becoming like that. You are constantly thinking of me. You are not thinking of God. You are become attached to me. So what will you have? What will you happen to you? Next birth you will become like Narendra. So Sri Ramakrishna, he was such a simple, and he used to believe anything which Swamiji said. That was absolutely blind. So Sri Ramakrishna himself narrated this incident. I will quote him. He said, I have tremendous faith in Narendra's word, you see. So I was scared. I went to the temple and reported this to the Holy Mother, to the mother. He had no problem, no, he could see mother every time, not like us. So he immediately reported this to Mother Kali, that Naren is saying this. So mother said, he is a mere boy. Why do you listen to him? You are attracted to him because you see God in him. You love God which is in him. You do not love that boy Narendra, not that body or mind. You love the reality which is behind Narendra. And the reality behind every one of us is only God. So I returned to Narendra and said, you rascal, I won't listen to you anymore. Mother says that I love you because I see God in you. The day I no longer see Him in you, I won't be able to bear even the sight of you. So because Sri Ramakrishna loved the reality which is behind us all, that's why his love was so deep. When we Our so-called love towards a person is based on something, based on the mind, body, qualities, etc. So when those things go away, our love also goes away. But that was not the case with Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and like that, because they loved the actual reality which never goes away. That is called divine love. So many people have described this. I will just quote one or two, otherwise it will take a lot of time. So Mahapurush Maharaj said, describing this, when we visited the Master, the thought of whether or not he was a divine incarnation never crossed our minds. We could not foresee that he would create such a superhuman movement throughout the world. He loved us very much. It was the depth of his love that drew us to him. How shall I describe his love? It was ineffable. In our childhood, we had the experience of parental affection and did not think there could be anything greater. But when we came to the Master and felt his love, we found the affection of our parents also to be of a lesser kind. That was the divine love which Sri Ramakrishna had for the whole of humankind. And Mahapurush Maharaj also says, he evinced earnest and unceasing solicitude for all of humankind in their suffering and gave them infinite peace through the realization of the divine. And I dare say that modern world has not seen another person like him, so devoted to the welfare of human beings. And Swami Vivekananda has also, Swami Vivekananda was not the person to waste words, but still he also says about this that nowhere else in the world, regarding Sri Ramakrishna, he says, nowhere else in this world exists that unprecedented perfection, that wonderful kindness for all, that does not stop to justify itself, that intense sympathy for man in bondage. Never during his life did he refuse a single prayer of mine. Millions of offenses has he forgiven me. Such great love even my parents never had for me. There is no poetry, no exaggeration in all this. It is the bare truth, and every disciple of his knows it. All the disciples of the Master experienced that. They were wonderstruck that this man feels for me more than I feel for myself. Like Sri Ramakrishna once he said to Niranjanananda, "Oh Niranjan, days are passing. When will you realize God? And if you don't realize God, everything else will be in vain. Because nothing else stays in the world." And then, after telling this with great feeling, Sri Ramakrishna started weeping. He is weeping for Niranjan. So Niranjan thought, I have not realized God, I should weep. And he is weeping. So this kind of thing, absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable. Many other instances are there, but we cannot narrate all of those. So I will just narrate one very beautiful description of Sri Ramakrishna's love. It contains, summarizes everything as it were. That is by his householder disciple Vaikuntanath Sanya. Beautiful description. So I will quote him from his reminiscences of Sri Ramakrishna. He says, I have already said that from the very first sight, I considered the master to be very near me, as if I were an intimate relative of his. This feeling gradually deepened. I began to visit him whenever I had the opportunity, but the more I became acquainted with him, the more I considered him to be ever new, and his tenderness towards me took on newer aspects each day. None knew as he how to make others his own. He opened himself to me as to an intimate acquaintance, and I too, moved by his love, poured out my heart to him without the least reserve. Before I had become aware of all this, I was a prisoner of his love. And no wonder, for no one who beheld that matchless combination of manly austerity and feminine softness, that firmness and grace, that gravity and lightness, could ever hold himself aloof. I have had the experience of family love and affection, but such selfless love as his I have met with nowhere else. Compared to the Master's love, all other love pales into insignificance. Nobody ever saw or even heard of such kind of love. It was inexpressible, known only to the person who enjoyed it. When we went to him, he would be delighted beyond measure. His very manner of caressing, talking, feeding, and joking with us indicated that. Then Vaikuntanath Sanyal says the final, most important thing. I had read in the Bible, God is love and love is God. These words now stood explained in the light of Sri Ramakrishna's love. That love was God's love, pure love, purest form of love. And whoever visited him must have felt this attraction. So this is a very deep subject. Many things can be said regarding this kind of love, and we can discuss later maybe. So this can only be felt by those who get this love. So naturally, people like us, we have not had the chance of meeting the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna and all. But I have seen disciples of Holy Mother at least, and many disciples of the direct disciples we have seen. So many saintly souls, even a person like me has had the chance of being acquainted with. So what we got from them, that is the support throughout our life. That cannot be described. That was something completely that quality itself is different. It is not that suppose our mothers love us or parents love us. So suppose it is not that 10 parents combined that love. It is not that. It's a higher kind of love. It cannot be described. So only those who have had the opportunity of getting the grace of these spiritual people can only understand that. We others cannot understand. So yeah, so now we were doing Bhaswara Bhava Sagara Chira Unmada Prema Patha. So now let's come to the next line. Bhaktarjana yugala charana tarana bhavapar. So this can be also translated in more ways than one, but I think this Bhaktarjana can be combined with Yugala Charana and Tarana Bhavapar. Means Bhaktarjana means for the devotees. Yugala Charana means his feet, God's holy feet. Tarana Bhavapar. So for the devotees, his feet are there so that why? Why do we need devotion to God? Tarana, to cross over. Bhava means this world. Par means to cross over. This ocean of the world. To cross the ocean of the world, his feet means devotion to God are our only refuge. So this needs to be meditated upon. This what has been said. We often chant this, we often sing this, but maybe we do not think what this means. That this bhava, this word itself, needs to be really seriously thought over. Like we discussed in the Khandana Bhava Bandhana, do we really feel that we are in Bandhana? We don't. So similarly here also, this Bhava Sagara, this ocean of this world, do we really feel that we are in the midst of an ocean from which we need to be rescued? Suppose we are traveling in a ship or a boat, we encounter a crash and we are in the midst, struggling to keep our heads above the water. Nothing in sight, all around water. What will our condition be? Same will be the condition who actually realizes that this world in which we are is also like the ocean. Wherever we see, there is no safety, no security, no happiness. Nothing is there which we are actually seeking. Only when we cross over the ocean and we get to the land, then we can be rescued, not before. Those who are actually seekers after liberation, only they experience that this world is like the ocean, where we will drown if we do not rescue ourselves, if we are not rescued by the mercy of God. And in ocean there are all kinds of animals, all kinds of alligators, sharks, everything, So Sri Ramakrishna says, what are these sharks? Alligators, what are these actually? In the ocean of samsara, Sri Ramakrishna says, quoting a song, within these ocean depths, 6 alligators lurk. One is the desire for sense pleasures. Second is the anger. Third is delusion, attachment. All these are lurking here and they are waiting to. So Sri Ramakrishna says they are swimming about in search of prey. So what do you have to do? They say that if you smear your body with turmeric, alligator does not come near you. So I have not tried and I don't want you to try also. So it says that smear yourself with the turmeric of discrimination. That is called Vivek. Viveka means what is right and what is wrong. That is also another big subject. So smear yourself with that and the very smell of it will shield you from these alligators in this ocean. So this huge ocean of the world has been described in many scriptures, in many ways, because the saints want to wake us up. We have as it were taken some opium or something, we are drowning but we don't know that we are drowning. We think we are quite all right. So they describe this so that we can realize our predicament. So one beautiful description is by Tulsidas, the great saint. He prays to God, "Give me the support of your arms as I appear to be drowning in this world-like ocean that is full of miseries and torments, because you are reputed to be the one who can remove all sorts of sorrows." So what all exists in the ocean? Pride and vanity is like the formidable ocean that is terrible, fathomless, endless, and difficult to cross. This ocean is filled with crocodiles represented by attachments, enmity, hostility, envy, jealousy, and desires. And the waves that heave menacingly in this ocean are symbolized by false allurements that one has. So, this is the world which we are in. And it has also been described by the same Saint Tulsidas, this world, to be like the fortress of Lanka where Ravan was. So, beautiful description. He says all our inimical tendencies, inclinations and habits of the body are like the fort of Lanka. The architect Maya was a demon. He had built this whole Lanka. So Maya means what? He represents the mind which has constructed this whole world. See the comparison. And the 5 koshas which we have, the 5 sheets, are like the magnificent palaces in the Lanka. And the 3 gunas which bind us, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, are the chief commanders of that army. So in this city of Lanka, Ravana, the king, symbolizes the negative traits of attachment. His brother Kumbhakarna represents the negative traits of pride and vanity. His son Meghnath represents passion. And he had a big army, all the demons, Atikai. So Atikai, who is Atikai? He was a demon. He is greed. Mahodara was another of his demons. Mahodara is jealousy and anger. And Devantak, the demon Devantak is anger and indignation. The demon Durmukh is envy and jealousy. And Khar is pride. And Akampan is deceit and crookedness. So this royal family of demons and its supporters are very strong, valiant, and practically invincible. So only by the mercy of God can we conquer these demons. Such is our state in this world. So the feet of God are said to be the only boat in which we can cross over this ocean of samsara. There is no other way. So many hymns are there. I will just quote 1 or 2 in which this has been mentioned. So Mahishasura the Mardini Stotra you all know, must have heard. Aigiri Nandini, all that. So there it is said, Tava padameva param pada etyanushil shilayatu yate. No, sorry. Tava padameva param padametyanushīlayato mama kim na shive jaya jaya he mahishāsuramardini ramya kapardini shailasute. So tava pada means your feet. At your feet indeed are the supreme refuge. So how can I not practice devotion to them? Then the same thing is said in another verse. Tava charanam sharanam karavani natamaravani निवासी शिवम जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते. Tava charanam means your feet. That is the only sharanam. That is the only refuge. So therefore I take refuge at your feet. O Devi, I prostrate before you, in whom resides all auspiciousness. Nivasi Shivam. Shivam means all auspiciousness. So because your feet are the only refuge of crossing over this huge ocean, that is why I take refuge in you. There is no other way. Nothing at all can save us from the miseries, the torments, the sufferings of this world other than devotion to God, devotion to our higher self, which is God. Because when we have that, we rise above this. God is what the world is not. It is completely beyond the world. And when it is beyond the world, it is beyond the cause and effect and the suffering and the miseries of the body, etc. It is a different, so to say, different world. So only when we go there, it is just like suppose we are caught in a hailstorm or snowstorm or something. There is no building inside. Suddenly we catch sight of some hotel or some motel or something. Immediately we rush in there. That warmth is there, security is there. It is just like this. So we have to rush before our life ends so that we can gain that sanctuary with God. We can escape death and torments. So I think this completes this verse, third verse. Bhaswara Bhava Sagara is the infinite ocean of spiritual emotions. Chira Unmada, he is always 24 hours, he is intoxicated with divine mood. Prema Pathara, and he is the very ocean of love. And for the devotees, his two holy feet act as a boat with the help of which we can cross over the ocean of this samsara. So next time we can take up the next verse also. So after this I will just show you a video of the Kali Puja in Belur Math. So let's end here the discussion for now. So after the video we can have the, if anybody wants to say anything. Om Shanti 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 Hari Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna